So without further ado, let's begin the essential conversation. Let's talk about the essentials of healing and health and wellness. I would like to know if you guys can chat in, this is great, or you can unmute your mic. But what is the condition that me as a chiropractor treat that can affect your nervous system? Two bones are out of place and they irritate the nerves. What's that called? What's that called? You can type in, chat in. I should have prizes. Aha, subluxation. Chris, you the man. All right, you're the winner. I need to give prizes. We have candy canes someone donated. I don't recommend you eat them, but that's the only prize I have, Chris, when you come in for right now, right? The subluxation. So a subluxation. Oh, go ahead. Did someone have a question, Karen? You just unmute your mic. All right. Subluxation is a condition that really is a condition of less light flowing through your body. So if we break up the term, sub means less than, luxation is light, and ation is just a condition of. So a condition of less light. Our bodies function through light, through electrical impulses and light. And when we have less of that light flowing through our bodies, we are functioning at a suboptimal level. And the most basic sense of understanding what keeps you healthy and how to stay healthy is how do you get more light to flow more often and stay that way? Well, when you're subluxated, that means your body was overwhelmed by stress. That some stress that comes from a number of different places overwhelmed your body. Now, your body can handle stress. We were built to handle stress, but most of that stress we handle should be short-term, not chronic, long-term stress. There are three areas where our bodies become stressed or overwhelmed that cause a condition of less light in our bodies. If you can, chat in, unmute your mic, tell me what are one of those three categories that cause us to have subluxation. Who knows? I know some people know this.
Accidents.
Accidents. Very good. Thank you. Is that Lori? Sounded like
Lori. Rhonda.
Oh, Rhonda. That was Rhonda. I can't see everyone's faces. Rhonda, thank you. Yes, accidents. We call them traumas. So to give you a clue, the three T's are what cause subluxation. One of them is traumas or accidents. Chris tapped in toxins. Did someone else try to chat in? I think I missed it. So traumas, toxins, foods we eat can have toxins. Foods we don't eat might cause us to be toxic if we eat junk, but also if we're not getting good nutrients, toxins. So there's last one, last T, thoughts. Someone's been on this call before, Sherry. Thank you. Thoughts. So the three big areas of stress in our lives come from traumas. Traumas can happen, yes, due to accidents, slip or a fall down the stairs. But remember that you can have micro traumas. Micro traumas are getting hit by a car, which I'm going to warn you all right now. If you're taking a left into my office, please be careful. I've had more than one person actually rear-ended. So car accidents happen. Definitely just pay attention. You can't pay attention enough. But when these accidents happen to our body can become misaligned. And that misalignment irritates our nervous system and stresses it. When your body can't handle that trauma, we have misalignment. We can also have micro trauma. Micro trauma comes from poor posture. It comes from doing repetitive motions all day. Those are micro traumas. In and of themselves, they're not harmful to our body, but done often enough without rest and recuperation, we start to break down. That's too much stress on our nervous system, and so our vertebrae become out of alignment. Toxins. Just remember, we're exposed to toxins in our water, our food, and our air. We can choose maybe how to filter our water, what water we drink. We could choose what food to buy. But sometimes we can't choose a lot of air quality. But at home, you might be able to get filters or purifiers, maybe at your workplace. But remember that if we're stuck indoors, our air is kind of stagnant air. It's recycled air. It's dead air, for lack of a better term. That when we're talking about what we breathe in throughout the day, toxins, get outside. Even though there might be pollutants, it's a lot vaster of a space. So outdoors was built to heal from the sounds, the sights, the sun, the air. We are one with the universe when we are outside. So you want to feel better? Get outside, even in this cold. Just dress warm. Okay. Toxins. Thoughts. We talked about this probably a couple times last month, but our thoughts are things. Remember, what we think about and think about, we bring about. So our thoughts are going to create either stress on our system or ease and relaxation. Our bodies a lot of times take the path of stress and tension, and we might not be able to control that with our conscious brain very quickly. But if we can retrain our body with breath work, which was one of our last newsletters, a simple breath work, we can start to subconsciously choose rest and relaxation. We can. But know that when our bodies get overwhelmed, they usually tend to have thoughts of fear. And next year, just so you know, we're going to go through all the types of emotions that can cause stress on our thoughts, as well as can relieve tension in our bodies. So look forward to that. That'll be our laws of the soul, we call it. But we're going to go through the laws right now of movement and the laws of rest and recuperation. Because when it comes to those three things in our body, those three stressors, one of the ways to relieve stress on our bodies is absolutely rest. So an essential part of healing is going to be how we rest. Rest begins, this is a very important point, proper rest begins the night before. Proper rest begins the night before. We don't just wake up and go, that was a good sleep. If we fail to plan, we definitely plan to fail. When it comes to our sleep and our rest, if we don't have a schedule, if we don't have a routine, if we haven't planned how and our environment, how restful it will be, what's on in our rooms, what we do before we go to bed, that lack of planning will usually lead to failure in quality of sleep. You can try to force yourself to stay in bed as long as you want, but if it's not quality, you're going to need more of the quantity. So planning. What is important before we go to sleep? One of the most important things probably at this day and age is to turn off our electronic devices about an hour before we go to bed. Turning off electronic devices, or at the minimum starting to dim the lights more of that yellowish hue. We don't want that LED white light hitting our eyes in the evenings, because our brains and our bodies will think that it's daytime. So one of the best things in the morning is to be in the sun. That wakes us up. That actually starts our circadian rhythm. I know when I get up, there's no sun. So one of the ways we can stimulate that are brighter lights. That's okay. That actually gets our body ready. But toward the evening, we want to dim the lights. We're going to get to that yellowish, hued light. I know my one phone used to turn yellow on a certain hour of the day. At the minimum, but preparing our electronics before sleep is very important. I wouldn't have electronics in your bedroom. I would try to make that a sanctuary, a very special place in which you do in that bedroom is sleep. It's a very calm and peaceful place. When you think about work and stress and action, and that is tied into what's in your bedroom, you're not going to get the sleep that you need. So proper sleep is going to start with preparation. Again, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So electronics, number one. A caffeine intake. If you drink caffeine too late in the afternoon, I think 2 o'clock is probably your max lateness that you should probably drink it. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Later than that, it will still be in your system and will start to change or affect how the quality of sleep that you get. That's another thing. One of the topics that we wanted to discuss today as well was the law of movement. And one of the best ways to prepare your body for rest is to exhaust it early in the morning. If we get up and we move every joint of our body until it's tired, and we exhaust our body to some degree physically, it's very easy for it to more mentally go to sleep at night. Some people can exercise in the evening, and there's a select types of people that might benefit from exercise in the evening. But at least you're exercising. I would say morning is best. Most people by the evening, they won't want to or won't feel that it's necessary and they'll be too tired to do it. But exercise is very valuable in trying to help your circadian rhythm. So moving your body is so essential. So we talk about essentials. One of them is definitely rest and recuperation. The other is movement. If we weren't built to move, if our creator did not create us to move, we wouldn't have all these joints that we do. The joints in your body are there to be moved and used. And if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So let's think about some of these things. We'll be talking about balance next month. How many of us remember as a kid every opportunity we got to get like on a balance beam, to get on the curb, to like challenge what I could stand on, you know? We would want and we would love to just see what we could stand on and balance, right? As we get older, we would probably be rare to even try to do a side shuffle once in a while. I mean, unless you're playing pickleball or some sort of sport that would challenge you to change directions, which I'm a big fan of pickleball, by the way, so you guys should know. But just know if you're not changing and challenging directions of your body, even if you're active, you're probably just walking forward. You probably rarely ever walk backwards. Definitely, probably not side to side much. So even those, if we don't use it, we lose it. So moving our bodies and joints in different ways is very important. I don't believe that there's a specific exercise everyone should do. Everyone's body is very different in different stages of life, but we do need to move and challenge our bodies. One of those is our balance. This even goes to the point of moving our jaw in different positions, moving our eyes in all kinds of positions. We can get stagnant. This is why people, when you get stuck on a computer too long, and your eyes, especially like video games and movies, if you do a lot of that, your brain will be watching something that thinks you should be involved in physical activity, but it only gets visual stimulus. And when you only get visual stimulus, your brain is disoriented. It's disconnected to some degree. And this is why it's very important just to move our bodies, to move. The seats, if you guys come to my office, you see those wobble seats? I put those on every single seat because I think not only are they healthy for your back and your spine, but we need to use those throughout the day. If you're stuck in a seat all day, move at least, sit on those things. So movement is life. And when your body stops moving, it will stop living ultimately. And there's a failure of exchanges. So those are some of the keys that, before bed that we want to think about. The last would be probably foods before we go to bed. Um, Gosh, when we're younger, we can probably just challenge our bodies any way we wanted. You could probably eat a whole pizza, fall asleep, wake up in the morning and feel no different. If I did that now, I bet you I wouldn't even sleep. I'd probably feel horrible. I'd probably wake up in 2 or 3 hours and wonder why my stomach hurts, number one. But then the second would be just why I'm revved up. Um, but a heavy meal before bed, too early, before like a couple hours before bed, is tough. At least 2 hours before is really hard on the body. The more fat, the more sugar that there is, or even too much protein, really, but it's going to challenge your body. It takes a lot to digest our foods. And when we talk about this, I want you to think about that your body, if you're having challenges with your digestion, you're very likely in chronic stress. Chronic stress turns off our digestive ability and basically makes it hard to digest anything, anytime, even if you're sitting down for dinner. So how many times do we really slow down and focus on our food and focus on chewing and really working and understanding that process? How do we slow down? I mean, why do we pray before we eat? To slow down, not only giving thanks, but to slow down. So if you never sit to eat, if you don't ever slow down, there's a good chance your body will have a hard time getting to sleep because it's on constant rev. It's revved up. So before bed, a big heavy meal is not a good idea. Even if you had fasted all day, maybe it was on purpose, maybe it wasn't. Not that I'm a big fan of just starving yourself, because if you just starve yourself, ultimately there's ways that you'll know, but your body will ultimately just really want calories, and then you're going to choose some bad choices. But if didn't get your meal in for some reason, you had to skip dinner, things got busy, I'd be really highly suggestive of not just scarfing out a ton of food if you're too close to bed. I would eat a lighter meal, fruit, maybe some nut butters and fruit, maybe a slight little smoothie would be good. Something easier on your digestive system, something that wouldn't be too taxing on it. Some little bit of protein's fine. I've had some, and I can't validate this 100%, but I've had some people sleep better, as this is kind of wild because it seems sugary, but with just a tablespoon or teaspoon of honey before bed. For whatever reason, that seems to balance their blood sugars throughout the night. What happens for most people with poor sleep, that you might get to bed, but you can't stay asleep, is that your blood sugar drops too low, and then the body needs to wake you up to get the blood sugar back up. And when it wakes you up, sometimes you have a hard time getting back to sleep. So if you want to maintain blood sugar throughout the night, number one, don't spike it up right before you go to bed. And number two is maintaining a good blood sugar is that you've eaten a good balance throughout the day of carbs and proteins and fats. And we talk a little bit more about the laws of nourishment here next month. We will, but just know a balanced diet has a lot of fiber, mostly vegetables and fruits, protein, and then carbs to follow. It's usually the way that we suggest things. Fat if you're still hungry or need that, obviously. But balancing the blood sugar throughout the day is important for the evening. Definitely not having something high before bed. But what's very common, I mean, you eat, you might still be hungry for bed and you want a snack. Most snacks are going to come out of out of our cabinets that probably have processed things in them, or out of our freezer with ice cream. And those things always are going to add a little more stress to your body before you go to bed. So being well satisfied in your meal, maybe having, something a little right after dinner more than right before you go to bed is definitely going to help people sleep. So that's another thing. So you've got exercise, you've got what you put in your body, and then your environment. Very important to sleep. So that's prepping for that day. Let's say when we're talking about prepping for sleep that you go, I'm going to get up like Dr. Nate says, and I'm going to exercise. I want you to think about doing an audit. We call it a reverse audit of your schedule. And just say, well, I've got to be at work at whatever time. Okay, well, that's fine. So that means that it takes this long to drive there. And then it makes this long to eat and takes this long to prepare the food. It takes this long to get ready, to shower. So that means I got to get up this time in order to work out for a half hour, right? So do those audits. The more stress you put on yourself, the less you're going to have good sleep and the less your day is going to be in a proper way. So think about doing that reverse audit. So if you do have to get up at 4:30 in the morning because you want to do a whole hour and a half of exercise and meditation and prayer and juice in the morning and then get to work 100% ready to go, well, that means you better get to bed to give yourself that 7 to 8 hours, which we haven't talked about this yet, but at least 7 hours of sleep. That means that you're going to have to get to bed. I think it's around 8:30 or so, or 9 or something like that. So know that most people, as we age, we can do less sleep, but it will come at a cost to some degree. Think about a baby first. Number one, a baby's job: eat, poop, and sleep. And a baby's they're not going to sleep a long amount of time, but they're going to sleep a lot of time throughout that day. Baby's going to sleep a good 12, 15, 17 hours, I mean, a lot, because healing, rejuvenation, and health come from proper sleep. So you want to make sure you're giving yourself at least 7 hours. The most research says at least 7, probably 8. I'd tell you this, if you're saying, I don't have great sleep, I want to start gauging where I'm at. One of the things is starting to make some of these changes one at a time, not stressful, but once at a time. You make some changes and say, hey, could I stay asleep at least 5 hours solid without getting up? I mean, I'm talking even go to the bathroom or something like that. Can you stay asleep for 5 hours solid without getting up? That should be one of your first goals. You might go back to sleep, get more sleep, and that's fine. It does add. It is a combination. It's where naps and other things can be very helpful. Your body will tell you if you're overwhelmed and overstressed and needs rest. It will. We'll ignore it usually. We do. And then, eventually if we ignore it enough, we'll be sick. And we might have flu or a bug in our bodies. Naturally, we'll get sick, not just because there's bugs around, but because you need to slow down. And if you're not going to listen, your body says, this is your body's conversation, I'm going to slow you down. And it's going to do that usually through getting sick. So just realize that your body is very intelligent. It wants you to be healthy, but we have to treat it properly. So preparing for our sleep, preparing how we go to bed, what we eat before bed, how much caffeine we have, the environment, all very important. Trying to get that 8 hours, 7, 8 hours of sleep is very important. You do get up in the evening, it's okay. And hopefully at night, get back to sleep. If you have a hard time with that, we can talk about, in your office, what things you might want to do. Some simple sleep aids usually are magnesium before bed. Magnesium is one of the best supporters if you're looking for some of that. Melatonin can be helpful, but just be careful. If you get really dependent upon that, that means your body might not be making enough. So we want to try to help support that as well. There are some other things that you can take and do. There's plenty of those types of things, but I think the key is, can your body do it naturally? And this is the tools we're trying to give you. Any questions at this point so far with any and all of those things I just talked about, at least when it comes to your sleep? I know I bored you with a lot. Just hopefully one of those little things you said, oh, I could do better with that. Maybe, maybe. The movements of our bodies are going to be, I think, to me, one of the trump factors. If we focus on moving our bodies and moving them well, sleep will happen. If you're doing things well in your life for you, your sleep will be well. Your sleep is almost more of a symptom of not taking care of yourself properly than a cause. I also want you to realize that if taking care of your body as well and following the other laws that we'll talk about as we move along in this thing, I have a book next year too. You guys can get that way you can kind of follow along with all these laws. But if we're following the laws of nourishment and movement and rest and recuperation and sanitation, you will sleep fine. You will. But when we don't, we got to use that as a sign that we need to think about what's our next step. And remember that what causes our body's subluxation will affect us in many areas. So if those thoughts are overwhelming us, the last little tip I would say to give you is to do a brain dump. A brain dump, you could actually probably even Google it. You could even find little PDFs. But ultimately, you're just writing everything that comes to your head, all the things you know you got to do, all the things that you're stressing out that you know you need to get done, you want to get done, all the things that that are on your mind. And then you start just kind of crossing off the ones you know you can't control, you can't do anything about. And maybe you start to get to a point of things that you know you might be able to make a change to the next day, and you circle those couple. That's a brain dump. Doing that right before bed, clearing the mind, might help that sleep be solid. Because if our subconscious is waking us up, that's a tool or a gauge. You know, our thoughts are our subconscious just kind of working through the day, by the way, our dreams. I mean, our dreams. Our dreams are our subconscious just trying to make sense of all the things that happen. Cleaning the space is basically clearing memory. It's like a computer gets overwhelmed. The subconscious got to clean things out of that of your brain, so you got room to handle the next day. So if you don't ever remember dreaming, or you're not dreaming much, maybe your body's not getting deep enough that it's clearing things out. I can't tell you the number of diseases you could probably look on the line, but it can be attributed to poor sleep, accidents, focus, long-term diseases. You know, anywhere from diabetes to cancers, all linked to poor sleep. But remember, sleep is a symptom, and we need to start to prepare for it that day before. And movement's one of those base things. Thank you for the questions. Let me get into those really quick. Thank you for that. Did you say that a tablespoon of honey might help someone? Yeah. Yes. Actually, I would stick with a teaspoon first, Chris. Go with the teaspoon, but you could try it. I love the local honey. Try to get it unrefined, you know, the raw. That way it could help your allergies too, if you ever tried the honey thing. But I would do a teaspoon. Yeah, stick with that first. You can maybe go a tablespoon, but I would stick with a teaspoon. Next question is sound machines. Oh my gosh. So sound machines, I do love the white noise. Sometimes that can help distract our minds and our bodies. I think it's a very good tool because your brain is actually always awake. Even all night, it's awake. There's a part of it, the basal ganglia is always awake, but it gets used and learns certain sounds. This is why someone who lives by a train track can sleep through the train going by. But if you were staying the night, you would jump up like, what the heck's going on? Because the brain learned that wasn't a harmful sound. So white noise keeps extra little sounds out of our environment, might help us stay asleep. Because if you are a light sleeper, that can definitely wake you up. So I love the sound machine. Audiobooks or music when going to sleep. I am a big fan of trying to tune in to tune out. So if the audio book or the music is helping you to tune into you and just be kind of generally focused on relaxation, rest, I definitely think a guided meditation or breath work before bed is awesome. If it's something that doesn't take a lot of mental space and can relax you, I think a book's probably fine too. For me, I don't know what it is, but words on a page make me sleep. So if I really need to fall asleep, I just start reading a book and I fall asleep. And I was like, I think it's the part of dyslexia when I was, when I was young. It's like just puts me to sleep. But anyway, whatever, good book is fine too. But I like all of that. There was a question in our box about salts. So I don't know if anyone asked this it's on the line. Maybe I should save it to some. But when it comes to salt, I just want you guys to know we do sell something called Celtic sea salt. In my opinion, it's the best salt on the planet if you're trying to have a healthy, natural salt. This salt, Celtic sea salt, Himalayan sea salt's good, comes from the Himalaya mountains. Celtic sea salt comes from the sea. The sea's mineral composition is the same that's in our bodies and our bodies, just so you know. Celtic sea salt, you're definitely going to pay for it because they refine it and right off the ocean. They pull the water, it dries, and they harvest the salt right from the ocean. It has a ton of trace minerals, probably over 70 different trace minerals. It is tested for minerals and viability. But if you're looking for a healthy salt, not bleached out salt, not kind of more chemical added iodine salt, I would look for Celtic sea salt. Very, very beneficial. Minerals are huge for relaxation. So it's interesting if someone put that in. The right salt used day to day can be very healthy for you. So let us know if we can order some of that for you. Celtic sea salt, you can get it at our office. Fresh Time has it. Go online. You could probably order it to be shipped.